All right, good evening and welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us all here for Telos Live. It's so good to see all of your very smiley faces, and we really want to welcome you here tonight for another great evening and another great guest speaker that we've got joining us on Telos Live. So I'm going to keep looking out and taking a look at my little inbox because there's still people who are starting to pop in. But in the meantime, what I'd love to do is actually bring on, and to join me here tonight is my co-host and co-pilot, Ella. So let's bring Ella in. And Ella, do you want to say hello and welcome everyone tonight?
Hi, everyone. It's good to see you all tonight. I hope you're all doing well.
Fantastic. So look, if you're joining us for the first time here at Telos Live, thank you for being with us for these online sessions. A little bit of background for anybody that is new. Ella and myself started the Flame of Eternal Life probably 3 years ago as a place to bring together heart-centered, people who are on a spiritual path, who are growing in their level of consciousness, and especially those who are awakening through the heart center. And for those of you who've been joining our sessions and coming to some of the groups that we've done in person on Fridays, you'll realize it's just been a great community to connect with other like-minded souls. So if you're new here tonight, we really welcome you and we hope you get a lot out of the session tonight. And before we introduce our guest speaker tonight, I just want to let you know how tonight works, because it's a bit different to some of our other sessions. So tonight, what I'll be doing first of all is just giving you a bit of an overview of how the Telos Live actually runs for the night. We're then going to introduce our guest speaker. And then for the first half, Ella and I are really going to have a fireside chat, which it's almost like you can just listen into like a fly on the wall as we talk to our guest speaker, Nino, tonight. And we talk about this topic of understanding the soul's journey. And so what we do ask during this time is that you could please stay on mute just to cut out any background noise. And then later on down the track, we will actually open it up and bring everybody onto the gallery view. And then at that time, we open it up to you for any questions you might have. And that's where you'll be able to interact and share as well. So Ella, while I'm still letting some more people into the room, do you want to give a lovely warm introduction to Nino before we bring him on?
We have a very special guest speaker tonight. It's Nino Borsari. He is a clinical hypnotherapist, regressionist. He studied with Michael Newton, Brian Weiss, and Dolores Cannon. So I know Nino from 11 years, when I awakened with the vision from Egypt. My first vision, probably I should tell you about this because this is relevant. My first vision I was having in Egypt. I saw 7 Egyptians women, beautiful dress in the ancient dresses, and they were celebrating my awakening. And the deep voice said, "Welcome back, High Priestess." So after this, I started to look for answers, and then a friend of mine introduced me to Nina, a regressionist, and he helped me to understand my spiritual journey, where I am coming from, or where I am. And then we befriended, and we had a lot of spiritual sessions in front of people. We work in spirituality. Nino will hypnotize me, so some random past life will just pop up. And in 2016, we had a mission to open up portals in Cheops in King Chamba. So my master sent us to Egypt, and prerequisite was that we will be chanting and meditating 3 consecutive days, which was almost impossible but we did it anyway. So welcome, Nino Borsari, clinical hypnotherapist and regressionist.
Okay, welcome, Nino. Give Nino a hand. And Nino, while we're giving you a hand and welcoming you, you can unmute so we can actually hear you. So welcome, Nino.
Okay. Maybe you better keep the hand, like the hand shaking, clapping down to after I've said some stupid things.
Excellent. Look, welcome here tonight, and it's great to have you join us. I know Ella, over the many years I've known Ella, she's talked quite a lot about the sessions that you've done together and a lot about your work. And
Yeah,
so
sorry,
when this topic of understanding the soul's journey came up, we thought, who better to come and share with us someone who's had a real depth of experience in that. So, look, it's a real privilege to have you here, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, well, look, thank you for having me, and Ella in particular, of course, as we have shared amazing things. She really is a special soul, and I've met you at your book launch many years ago, Les. I haven't seen you since, but again, I know your dedication, your professionalism, both of you. I consider to be professional and coming from the heart, as opposed to coming from personal sort of monetization or anything. All of us that are really sincere know that if we do work that I'd want people to do to me, then we're in sync. And I think both of you are in exactly that same category. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I know it's a very fascinating topic. You know, we've definitely got quite a lot of questions that we were popping into our head. But we'll start with the simplest one. So I'm going to hand over to Ella for this first one, and let's see where we go tonight, because we will work very intuitively.
Yes. Question number one, Monsieur Borsari. How did you wake up? How did you awaken? What's happened in your life, the defining moment? And also, how did you decide to become the regressionist?
Right. Okay. Well, how I became awakened, first part. I was about 14, living in my parents' house in Kew in Victoria, for those who might be interstate. And I had an epiphanal experience. It was obviously, must have been a Saturday or Sunday, because I wasn't getting up to go to school. And I felt really strange, discombobulated. I couldn't identify my own room. And I must have just come into the soul or something. I don't know exactly how, but I felt connected to someone, and I remember looking around the room and saying, wow, this is a strange dimension. Where am I? And I got an answer. And I said, well, what am I doing here? Why am I, in this? And they told me that, in brief, you're here to be of service later on in life. Now, I'll give it to you straight. Now, whether or not you believe this, but this is what happened to me. That before the end of my life, the conditions on the earth were going to change quite dramatically. And I'm here to be of service in a small way, just a foot soldier. But I was here and to be of service, and that later on in life, for the time being, I should just get on with my life. And I certainly did. I burnt the candle at both ends a bit. But I suppose that made me richer in experience. But I was certainly a selfish and arrogant young guy. But I went and experienced a lot of life, but I always had a connection to wanting to understand this message. I wasn't spiritual at all, of course, at that age. I was still, a kid kicking footies and riding bikes. But it always never went from me. So all my life I've been involved in metaphysics and philosophy and psychology and alchemy and the like. And sometimes I get right into it, and other times when I was doing I was a professional DJ, I ran jewelry stores, I was an exporter of wine, I was a wine educator. I've done a lot of things in my life, but always on the side, I had this fascination with the meaning of life, I suppose, why we're here and what happens when you die. And in those days, back in the 60s and 70s, I'm an old fella, there was only the Theosophical Society and a few spiritualist churches that you could go to, but it was a pretty lonely study in those days. Now on the internet, books that took me 10 years to get a copy of, you can see them in all those audio books for free on the audio. I paid $500 for it, and I couldn't find it for 3 years or 5 years, and now it is for free. So things have changed dramatically, and in that change, I finally got to a point where I was doing all those trades, including family business of importing jewelry and selling jewelry and things like that, that I realized I didn't want to do this. It wasn't. I didn't want to be a shopkeeper for the rest of my life. There was a burning thing inside of me that it was time to move on. And so I eventually sold that business, and one thing led to another, a few missteps, but eventually I sort of prayed really hard. Look, you said to be of service. I'm here to be of service. Open the doors for me. And out of the blue, I was very depressed. One of my naturopath friends, I had studied naturopathy. I dropped out, but I studied it. One of my best friends became one of Melbourne's top naturopaths. And I went to see him one day, and he said, Nino, you're such an intellectual person. You should get into hypnosis. And I had, it's interesting, a psychic had said that to me 12 years ago. But when I looked into it, you had to be a doctor or a priest in those days. So I dismissed it. And I said, oh, no, you've got to be a doctor or a priest to be a hypnotherapist. And he said, not anymore. The first official school of hypnosis has started here in Melbourne, actually only about 3 blocks away from where you're living in Ivanhoe. And of course I went, what? I went and rang them up, and I was enrolled 2 weeks later. And then when I got my graduations, one thing led to another, and realized that as these things will be, just as I graduated, people started introducing me to past life regression. I was going to go out there and doing smoking and obesity and all those things that most hypnotherapists do. But one thing led to another. The doors were meant to go that way, clearly. Somebody handed me a Brian Weiss book, Many Lives Masters, famous book. And then I was doing that for 3 or 4 years. And when I started to get good at it, somebody introduced me to this book, Journey of Souls, by Michael Newton. And that was, that was truly, and the second one, of course, Destiny of Souls. And I strongly recommend to any of your members that if they're interested in this subject, these books are absolutely transformative. I went and studied with both of them in the US. First Brian Weiss, and then a few years later, Michael Newton. And then about 10 years ago, I did also Dolores Cannon. So that's the background.
Yeah, fantastic. And it's interesting back then because, I suppose in the early 50s, they had those sunset clauses around hypnotherapy, wasn't it? That you had to be a priest, I think a dentist, priest, and like you said, was it a doctor?
It had to be a psychiatrist, a priest, and for you to have a look at later on for your members. Describes one of these sessions in detail, an old soul going through death and a really awakening to super consciousness. But to get to the point is, then often the guide will be there, and they'll say after a while they do a quick review. Some souls need to stay around their body because, especially younger souls, they like to see who went to the funeral, or they might still have a bit of a mission. But most older souls will move on because they know that they've done this before, like at the airport. No, I don't want to have a coffee at the airport. I want to go home and have a coffee, And so most people then feel a connection almost immediately, like a pull. Just like if you're, I suppose, a little bit like if you've just arrived home in your home airport for the first time in many months or maybe years you've been away, your family are waiting at home to give you some home-cooked food, and you can't wait. You don't want to do anything else. You want to go there. I want to be hugged. I want to see them again. I wanted the joy of the love. And one thing that's obvious is the love is much stronger when you don't have a human body. And that's when they link up with I'm connected to a group of souls, which Michael Newton coined the idea of the soul group. Yes. And that's, I hope that answers that question.
Yes. So would you conclude that the family and the friends, close friends, are a part of the soul group?
All right.
We came together to finish off some plans. So.
Yeah, thanks. Well, the answer is sometimes. Yes, quite often. Again, if you read that addendum message that I posted with Les before later on, if you have a look at it, I'll answer that in some detail. But in brief, yes, often we set up relationships in the step number 7 and 8, our next body and our body selection in the Life Between Life section that I've got on that info page, after we've gone back to heaven, like or to our home, and have been there for a while. And again, this is not a one size fits all. It's like somebody will go overseas for a week and somebody will go over there for a year. Everyone's got a different agenda, a different place they want to see. But in brief, they go back to their soul group and then they make agreements with their guides and elders as to what they need to learn next. Just like if you go to school, you'll have over a term, you'll be told what they expect you to learn over a term in various subjects. And then they'll break it down to what from week to week. This learning this thing will take a week. This other one will take 1 or 2 days. And similar, we use the earth as a school of hard knocks somewhat for souls that want to move along to full enlightenment quicker than in planets and dimensions where evolution is much slower because they don't get challenged. And that's their choice. And it's our choice too. And so when you're back with your soul group, your guides or others will know what you've agreed to basically be doing over the next term or the next week or the next day at school. And then start to work out, okay, so tomorrow, what are we going to do in this lifetime? Because lives when you're in the higher planes are a little bit like when we're in one of these things for 70 or 80 years, it seems interminable. But when you really are aware of your eternity, it literally you never cease to be. And all of a sudden, whether it takes 10 lifetimes or 100 lifetimes or 1 lifetime to learn a lesson, not that it's irrelevant, but it doesn't really matter. It does and it doesn't, you know. And so they will get together with certain soul mates and choose to learn lessons together, or I'll be the antagonist. Often good soulmates will agree, look, you've got a problem with your egos in your life and it's holding you back. The guides have presented that maybe you need to humiliate it a little bit or something, and you need somebody to do the humiliation. I volunteer. And it's literally negotiated, almost like a Shakespearean play. You know, the good guy, the bad guy, but behind the scenes, they're all good actors. But one is playing the victim, one is playing the antagonist, one is playing the romantic, you know, that sort of stuff. And we get over many, many lifetimes to play both poor roles, rich roles, educated, uneducated, male, female, die young in wars, die old as a wise person, and everything in between. So with that in mind, but you've got to see it from their point of view. They don't see that as much of a challenge as we see it when we're in one of these. So, and then you agree, you put it to the masters, to the overseers, if you like, and then you get a choice of a body. Again, this is touched a little bit in that paper, and that's where younger souls don't get much of a choice of the bodies, a little bit like kids going to school. They just get taken to school. But by the time you're at university level, you're choosing your lectures, you're choosing what you do about it. Parents aren't really involved in that. You don't have that need to have your hand held anymore. You're increasingly given directorship over your own incarnations and your involvement. And then you can agree with other guides, with your guides and other people, what roles you might play according to learning those lessons. Because as we go on, the lessons become subtler and subtler. They're not as obvious as don't kill, don't steal, don't lie, don't be selfish.
I think it answers it very well. It was a good question.
Les, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. Nino, you know, in terms of, you know, quite a few people here who are listening tonight, you know, have a connection to the philosophy of spiritualism and this understanding that we do pass on. But from your perspective of, you know, working with regression and hypnotherapy, what's your sense of what the process is when the soul is actually leaving the body and transitioning to the next phase? Right.
Well, again, that document that is available to your members, I suggest you read that second one. It deals with that in considerable detail. So that is something you can study if you're interested in this subject after we're finished. But again, on the internet these days, near-death experiences make it sound like one size fits all. But again, it's a little bit like, you know, you take up sport. Well, there's thousands of different types of sport, and there's levels of devotion and professionalism, or just doing it sideways and almost like a hobby. When we die, the younger soul can be quite afraid of death before, of course. But inevitably, once the soul is out of the body, then you see the difference straight away between a soul that is really discombobulated and has more of the sort of near-death experiences you often see on near-death experience type shows, where, you know, they came out and they're still sort of very curious in a sense of asking question and, wow, isn't it all great? And that's fine, of course it is. But that's one level. It's like VIPs come into an airport and they've got VIP services. And if you're a minister, you get another level of, and if you're the prime minister, you have your own bloody jet. But you still have to come in on the thing. There's many different levels of leaving the body and your state before it. Yeah. And then immediately afterwards, it's amazing how the older souls really awaken very quickly, a la the document that I've sent to you. But the majority, of course, are still a bit discombobulated. Like if I just got dumped in an airport that I don't know, but I know it's an airport. But if you're a really young soul, you might not even know it's an airport because you didn't expect to die. Atheists are the best ones. Mm. You know, they die, they don't believe in God, but they're there anyway. And then you sit there for a minute or two. What are you experiencing? Darkness. You know, so they're answering the question. Right, so already, you know, and you wait for tick, 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 tick. So what makes you aware of the darkness? And, you know, this can be drawn out, but basically they get to the point of, wait a minute, I'm observing that I'm thinking that I'm in darkness. Right. So, you know, so therefore maybe you're not dead. So from that extreme to people coming out and go, oh, I'm great to be out of that life and really celebrating about getting out of school. You could enjoy the school, but I want to go home. And I want to go home to my friends and a sense of such liberation and abundance that older souls in particular say, oh, I don't like going to bodies, but I know it's for my own good. It's like going to school. And yeah, I'll have some good fun, but when I go home, the love is not like a bad home. The love is so beautiful and uplifting. And the places we can go as a soul in the universe is so transformative to hear my clients. And I've done thousands of these. So the evidence is overwhelming. And I'm just one of 300 colleagues at the Michael Newton Institute alone. Each one of us do hundreds of these things every year. That's by now, I don't know, millions, I suppose. And so the anecdotal evidence is overwhelming.
So, when we're crossing over, yes, what are the stages? Like, okay, we're going through the airport, we see guides or family, and then what's happened with us? Are we going straight for healing, or we have our life shown in front of our eyes? We review the life and what's happened. We discuss with someone. There are guides on the other side who probably helping us to understand.
Yes, basically all of those. So thank you. That made that easy. Again, I suppose if you're, you know, for your members, please really, I mean, I can explain in half an hour only so much, but these books are transformative, and they're free of charge on audio books. Although they're so intense, I really think it's better to read them so you can go backwards and forwards.
That's the short version for other people.
Yeah, of course. So for those of us who, when we pass away, some souls will want to stay around a little bit, and they will be met by guides. If they're youngish soul who died in a terrible way with a lot of agony or pain, then often their loved ones will be around, maybe their husband, their wife that died, or their family or something like that. The more comfort they need, as in the shock of death or being afraid of death, because once they're out of death, they realize, well, not only am I okay, but I'm feeling wonderful. But that transformative stage is for them, for the younger soul, to have somebody there that is looking beautiful. My wife, she looks like when we got married, or my dad is here, or whatever it is. So if you really died in a state of anxiety or pain or fear, then you do tend to have quite a few people to greet you. Just like, again, a traveler who hardly ever flies, the airport, there might be their whole family to greet you. But if you're flying once a week, yeah, you catch a taxi and go home. So you don't need that. So the guides will usually be there, typically with the younger soul. Is there anyone to greet you? Oh, there's my dad, there's my girlfriend, there's my cousin, whoever it is. And they lighten up straight away. You can see them, oh my God, at one minute, that beauty of seeing loved ones there brightens them right up. And I say, is there anybody else there? And they'll often say, yes, there's a being or two of great light in the distance. Who do you think they are? And I says, if the young ones, I'm not sure. Well, people believe in guardian angels. Could it be guardian angel or something like that? You don't want to tell them because it's, but just saying if it's great light, and they tell you they've got more light than my friends. And so you broach that subject. But for the majority of people that are doing, especially Life Between Lives, they know. As soon as they're on, they say, oh, I know that. That's my guide. Mm. And sometimes it's 2 or 3, often 1, but 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. If I'm doing a Life Between Life or a past life, then can we review that life? Then we stay on the astral. Because when we die, we come out into the astral. And we have to go to the light to move up to the higher realms, mm-hmm. Yeah? So, and that's where a lot of near-death experiences don't move beyond. They stay on the astral. But it's like going to the airport and living in the airport. Mm-hmm. It's, fine. You could live in an airport. There's restaurants and everything else, but, you'd want to go home and be free. And so for the older soul, they know that. It's like a person, again, the analogy of a seasoned traveler knows it all and understands it all. No, I don't need any assistance. I know where the taxis are. Or I've got my car parked down the back, or I can take the train or whatever it is. Whereas the younger one will need somebody there for them, to greet them, to carry their baggage, whatever it may be. So it's not one size fits all. It's usually does fit perfectly to that particular soul's need at their present state of evolution and the way that they came out of the body, whether they come out in a peaceful death, was it violent, was it afraid? All those sorts of things are catered to with perfection, I'd have to say. What was the rest of that question?
I was wondering if, as a soul, we're going straight for the healing, or we have a review of our life.
In an extreme case, if somebody has died really super violently or really resisting death in a really toxic way, then yes. I've had it happen. I've figured probably 3,000 to 4,000 cases over the years, and I'd say that out of all of those, I've had maybe a dozen times where immediately out of the body, the guide says, let's go. And I know that they're telling me, let's go for a healing. I want to take her straight away to for refurbishment, so to speak. Mm-hmm. It does happen occasionally, but again, I have to say that in the last 10 years in particular, I'm not getting a lot of young souls anymore. Most of the people that are coming to me are immediate to advanced or extremely advanced. And so they are more that seasoned traveler that knows that, I'm out of the body. Let me give you one quick example. Now I know to be a very old soul friend, he's a Jew in this lifetime. He died in the Nazi concentration camps of the Second World War. He comes into the scene that he has just come out of his body from the incinerations, right? And the guides wouldn't let him see his own death because there's no point. You don't have to see cruelty if it's not good for you. But I said, where are you? And first of all, he was a young Jew. I think he was only in his early 20s when he was incinerated. But it was definitely heading for the camps. And then I expected to ask him some questions about the camps. And the next minute, move forward to the next relevant point, and now he's out of the body, right? And he's saying, oh, I'm just out of the body. And when I caught up, oh, you've died. Yes. Okay. And knowing that the guides rushed him there, they said, don't take him there, Nino. He doesn't need to see this. There's no wisdom in it. And he said, oh, that's beautiful. And I said, what's beautiful? He said, seeing all the souls coming out of the gas chambers is like little bubbles of champagne. And he started to smile and said, they're all being freed. And it made, you could see that a man that had just gone through one of the cruelest deaths, the old soul was sort of saying, and yet now they're freed from this terrible, terrible injustice. And the way he spoke about it, and I said, well, you know, your guides, then I took him back to the light. This is a life between life. He did some major commentary on it, was very wise insight into the train that was coming with all these souls. But in the long term, it doesn't matter. But they're going to go through some cruelty, but there's going to be some benefits from it, blah, blah, blah. So I said, when you go back to the light, when you're ready to go back to the light, tell me. Yes, I'm ready to go. So we got up to the light. And I said, anyone there to greet you? And I'm expecting he's just died of one of the most cruel deaths, that his guides will be there and say, come on, let's go off for a healing, all right, to welcome you back to the spirit, to cleanse off all that hate that you've carried from being so hated so cruelly before you can go back to the high planes. And he said, no, I don't need that. And I was many, many years ago, I wasn't quite used to somebody going through such a terrible death for many years, after all, let's face it. And so I don't need that. And I said, can you call your guide? And I said, yeah, but no, I don't need a guide. And I said, are you sure? Where do you want to go? I want to go back to my family. You don't want a quick pit stop, because this healing is pretty amazing. It's better than you'll ever get on earth. He said, no, thank you. I know what you're talking about, but no, I knew what this life was about, and I don't need it. I just want to go back, and I want to do my sport. What's my sport? Light surfing. That will be a better healing than what they can give me. Light healing. Okay, so I was throwing out the instruction booklet. Okay, well, what's light healing? And he said, at the end of a harsh lifetime, I like to get together with some of my friends. We're out of body, of course, so it can be anything we want. And those nebulous clouds that you see in the cosmos, one of my friends will be purple, another one will be blue, I'll be yellow and red, and we go tumbling as whispers of consciousness, like a cloud, tumbling in one another. And as we do so, we're joyfully loving one another, unifying, knowing each other. It's beyond making love in the way that we know it on the earth. It is so intimate, so powerful, wonderful, completely free, and it's one of the most joyful experiences. That's what I do when I need a healing. So you can see from right down to the very basics to a guy that goes, no, I can do a better healing myself with my friends. There's a great range of healing and when it takes place. But for the average person, they'll come out of their body, unless it's been a terrible death. They'll do a debriefing with their guides next to the body. Some will want to go straight back and do the debriefing at the high realms, but many still do this. And then when they go back up through the light, they're then given a chance for healing if they need it. And that's an extraordinary experience. Or then a debriefing with their guides at a much deeper level now, at where they're at as a soul, not just after that life, but what is this added to your total knowledge, to your total wisdom? How do we assimilate it all? And then they can go back to their soulmates. But it doesn't always happen in that agenda. It can be mixed around. Hopefully that gives a bit of an answer to it.
That's very good. And it answers one of the questions I had, what's been the most kind of interesting soul client journey that you've experienced, but you've probably had thousands of them, but that was a great example. So thank you for sharing that, Nino. Can I just ask, obviously at the other side of life, before we incarnate, is there a bit of a process we go through then? And how do we really connect with our guides and choose those people that will support us?
Well, your guides are given to you when you're first created as a baby soul. Just like, I don't know, if you had a mother, I suppose would be the best thing. You're given a mother according to who you came out of, and But I can tell you that you do actually choose your mother and father before you come into the body anyway. So even though you may not know that as a child or even as a human, but again, more advanced souls get much more say into that. But the guide is assigned to you according to, and that's where you need to read that second book, Destiny of Souls. This goes into this in considerable detail. Yeah. That second one goes far deeper into this whole subject. But the guides are assigned to you a little bit like teachers at a school. And in a good school, you'll be assigned teachers that best suit your particular characteristics. There, it's perfectly fitting. Yeah. And so they will help you to go through the absolute basics of learning to walk and talk. And like, you know, I'm using human analogies, and it's not obviously the same, but in similar ways, until we're ready to begin to incarnate. Just like a kid that is ready to go to school. They're taken to school by mum or dad. They're not asked if they want to go, they go, you know, and they're led by the hand. The kid trusts enough to go. And even if they don't want to stay, you've got to stay. But later on, as we evolve, we start to go to school without mum and dad. And later on, we make the decide, I want an education. I want to go to university. I want this now. And so bit by bit. And our guides just likewise help us first to be very hands-on, and slowly but surely becoming more hands-off. And in the more advanced classes, we may then start to form other groups with other souls that are specialist groups. So even though you're still in the same classroom with the souls that you grew up with, but if 2 or 3 of you say, I want to study engineering, well, you know, those 3 will go off with other students from other classes that also want to do engineering, and they'll have specialized teachers. So therefore you've got new guides, right? But you'll always be connected to that original school, that original class. And even though you evolve considerably, I'll ask them, do you ever go back to your original soul group? Oh, not much, but we know each other. We literally grew up together, and I feel them. They know me. It's not as though I have to ring them up. As soon as I think of them, they know I'm thinking of them. Telepathically, old souls become very powerful. And so the answer is we get given a soul to teach us initially, and they teach us the ABCs and to get us up to being ready to go to school. And bit by bit, they will take a little bit hands off, and then will be handed over to other guides according to what we specifically are needing. And in the more advanced classes, then they'll tell us, look, you need a more advanced guide now. But I'm always here for you. I've always been your mum or your dad, and you'll never be not a part of me. Does that make sense?
It does, yes. Thank you for sharing that. It's nice to just get a bit of a perspective, you know, of how we connect with those groups and those guides along the way. So I think you really shared that well.
Dolores Cannon used to say, Earth is a schoolyard. You are here to experience, to learn your emotions, to love, hate, everything. But does it mean that we can choose life on other planets, other galaxies, and we can choose our form, Nino, like, I want to be rock next lifetime. If I have to come back, and I don't choose Earth, I want to be on the Jupiter as a rock.
Oh, now you... now you're getting to subjects that how long we got?
No. The question is very simple. Yes, we know we are here to experience the life, yes, and we learn through experience. Can I choose next reincarnation?
Absolutely.
On different planet, or on Earth,
yes.
But I decide to be rock or bird or whatever, not human.
All right. Look, there are substructures everywhere here. But in short answer, yes, for most of that. You can certainly choose to go to another planet, and there's plenty of souls that have been my clients who are coming from other planets and dimensions, especially right now in this particular evolutionary hiatus point on Earth. There's a lot of what Dolores Cannon called the star seeds, and given that my mission was told to me at 14, I get a lot of these. And they talk under hypnosis in a different way. They don't have the fears and the concerns of the average human ego. Once I've opened them up into once we open them up into super consciousness, they go through the subconscious and then through. They transform again, depending. Everyone's different, but you'll ask them, why have you come here? And the answers are varied. But I came to be of help, or I had incarnated on the earth 5 billion years ago or something, and I love the earth, but I've moved on. But and this is a transitional time, so I've come back. And so you can certainly choose to move on from the earth. I'll give you another quick example. I was in New York, and I'd given a talk, not expecting to do any sessions in New York. I didn't have an office, but I was asked by a friend of mine to give a talk on past life regression, which I did. It was well received. And a guy comes up afterwards at cocktails, taps me on the shoulder, and I turn around and I see the most angelic young man. He's all in white. And honestly, it looked like he'd just come off Venus. He was so pure in his eyes. That was like, whoa. It's like looking into the eyes of a doe. He was just open. You don't see that much. In New York City, of all places, one of the most intense places. And I was like, sort of what kind of, like he hypnotized me. And he said, some of the things you spoke about really interest me. I'm feeling a little lost. Could you do a session? I said, I'm sorry. I'm not doing, I was asked to give a talk, but I'm here only for a week or two. I'm staying at a friend's place and I got no office. And I got this tap at the back of the head. It was my guide saying, do him. All right. Then my host said, look, she works at the Museum of Modern Art. It has a nice apartment in Brooklyn. And she said, look, when I'm at work tomorrow, you can do him on the couch in my place. Shit, done. I put him under hypnosis in 5 minutes flat. He needed, sleep. He slept, boom. So quick, so powerful. And I got to his super conscious within minutes. Used to be a couple of sessions to get people there. This one was doomph. So I knew that I had an extraordinary soul. And the fact that my guys basically said, do him. So I said, so what have you come for? And he told me before we did the hypnosis, he had bad diarrhea and would get anxious, and and for such a beautiful man, it was very debilitating and embarrassing. So I said, let's go to the source of your diarrhea. And straight away, he's next to, where have you landed? Down the tunnel, come out to the source of it, and he's next to his guides. And I said, wow, I'm in a place of white, everything is white, clearly a high realm place. And I said, trying to catch up with him. Okay, so why are we here? I needed to meet my guides. Okay, is your guides there? Can your guides speak through you? Yes, I give permission. So, okay, guys, can you help me? Why am I doing this? I said, well, you need to know that this is only his third incarnation on Earth. And he's in New York. Sort of like, are you guys crazy? And they said, yeah, well, his last two incarnations, he didn't deal well and he suicided. So we've recommended to try one more time. And so we also had an agreement that if he got lost again, they would give him some sort of malady, such as diarrhea, that it's help him to seek out somebody like you to put him into hypnosis so he can get him to us and give him a rebriefing so he remembers what the program is. Okay, so what's the program? He needs to do boom, boom, boom. I won't go into personal things. And it says at the end of it, he was satisfied. And I said, can I ask the guide something? Yes. Are you nuts? At this time on the earth, I forgot to mention. We went to his home planet. The home planet, you're talking about rocks, was nothing but rocks. And he described it as not as beautiful anywhere near the diversity, the bounty of life here on Earth. But, and so we tend to cluster, the gravity is much stronger. So we tend to cluster, almost like, sound like they were aardvarks. They had sort of heavy sort of coats on, but they had great telepathy. And so they lived in a mind world. Their bodies were almost unimportant. They had telepathy and they would create wonderful mind games and competitions and things. He said, I love this stuff. I said, is there food on your planet? Yeah, but again, nowhere near the diversity. What do you eat? And he said, it's a delicious lichen on some of the rocks. And I'm thinking, thank God for steaks and wine. I'm being very quality, sorry, guys. But it made me laugh. And I said, well, why on earth would you come here from that? And he said, well, my guides are telling me because where my soul wants to go in a direction in evolution now, there's no more lessons left on a planet like this. I've got this thing. And so my guide said, you need a school of hard knocks for what you want. You've got to toughen up. The earth is a good place to toughen up. And it's going through a lot. And you've got a gift that could actually be used at a very critical time on the earth as it's going on right now. So boiling it down, he came here and I said, well, so he's learning the hard knocks. So he said, you guys are crazy. You kill each other in the name of whatever army you're in. You celebrate amongst yourselves, but you kill some other wife's husband or father and you celebrate, but on your side, you think it's a crime. I mean, this is crazy. You guys are nuts down here. I can't stand this. But now that you're awakened to it, what is your gift? And he said, love. I'm here to bring love. We know love. We know forgiveness. We know just love. The earth needs love now. We have to start talking forgiveness. We have to start talking about spreading the joy of being alive in the first place. And at the end, it was a transformative session for me because, as I said, I saw it in his eyes. But when I got back, he sent me an email about 3 months later and said, I want you to know the diarrhea passed. I checked, do you have to clear the diarrhea? And the guy said, no, now that he's had the check out, we will do some surgery and that'll all go. And they often do psychic surgery on some of my clients to eradicate things once a client has got whatever it is that's holding them back. And then I got an email back 3 months later and said, I left New York. I've gone up to Vermont State, which is like Tasmania, the least occupied state, very green and all the rest of it. And I'm in a community here living on communal land. And I found my brothers and sisters. And here my pure love comes out. And it's a joy for me to be able to share it. And it's really making a difference. So, we can choose what we like, Ella. We don't often go back to animals. I'm afraid the Hindu religion has got that wrong. But I have had 2 cases of clients asking their elders, because it's they're step-ups of evolutionary frequency. To go back to an animal is it's like going back to grade school after you've got a PhD. It's why. I mean, it's not even good for the kids, so to speak. But in both cases, there were legitimate reasons for their love of animals and the cruelty that mankind does to some of the animals, that they were given dispensation. But it's extremely rare to go back to an animal. I'm afraid the Hindu religion has great teachings. The Bhagavad Gita and the Ashtavakra Gita are unbelievably wise. But some of their indoctrination is a little bit being a rock as far as I'm concerned. But you can come from planets where you identify with the life of the earth or the rocks. So I know I couldn't really answer it because there was so many little things I could tell you about exceptions.
It's a small question with a big answer, and I'm sure we can delve into that in a lot more detail.
Size fits all.
Exactly. And look, thank you for sharing, because that was really good to hear that experience of that young man. I think the next time any of us have diarrhea, we might be just asking, is this a wake-up call? Okay.
Nice comeback.
I think just don't go out there asking people to look at the source of your diarrhea.
Yeah, right.
especially on the physical plane. Right. Nino, I know you want to share in a little bit, you want to share a small little meditation that you want to do, a little process. But before we get there, I think just one final question here is, there are a lot of souls who incarnate and experience significant struggle and trauma. And I know you've talked a little bit about this, but from your perspective, is all struggle and trauma, is it planned, or is it something that the soul has to go through, or are there ways around or through that? And again, another small question with probably a big answer.
Actually, the answer is all of those. Up until recently, karma was because the earth now, there's definitely veils being lifted right now. Some of the sessions that I'm doing and some of my colleagues are doing, we're all looking at it and says, wow, things are changing very, very quickly. I'm having some extremely profound sessions now that 5 years ago would have been rare, and 15 years ago just didn't happen. And now they're happening more and more commonly. There's definitely a quicker awakening of super consciousness under hypnosis and past lives. So there's definitely a shake-up. People are getting, one guy said to me that what's the benefits of a life between life? Hey, what good is it? And he said it's the perfect cross between curiosity and skepticism. And, if we go into a past life regression ourselves, or especially a life between life session, which is a 5-hour session, and you have to have done at least a couple of past lives first, then you're immersed in this state at a very high frequency. As I said, these near-death experiences are usually still on the astral, and they're already talking about how great it is. But when you go through the light up to higher frequencies, and there are layers and layers and layers, just like a multi-story building. I can see really well from the first floor. Well, once you get to the 5th floor, have you been to the roof? And that sort of stuff. So everyone is on a different evolutionary path. You get your own choices, as we said in the beginning. The souls are still young, so they're given the same sort of standard ABC type stuff. But we all start to go in and choose our own evolution. And the life between life sessions in particular, these 5 or 6 hours ones that if your members read the bottom half of that information sheet, and I'll read them out for you, the steps that we go through is number 1 step we do in a life between life is back into the womb. We take a person back to the womb of this lifetime so that they can answer the questions, do you know mum? Do you know dad? Do you know their souls? And I'd say 3 times out of 4, yes. Can you tell me about what was agreed between you and your mother and father, or why were you the first born, or why were you male or female? And they can usually answer these questions. Sometimes I'm not sure. Again, either it's a younger soul that they're not given that information, or in some cases I've got, no, I don't know mum and dad, but I already know they're a fairly old soul. So why did you come through? I just needed to come through into this country, or this, say, I'm not going to have a lot to do with my parents in this lifetime. So I'm really just using the entrance gate. I've got my own things to be done in this lifetime. But most will say what their connection to their mother or father is. And then I can get them to, okay, do you remember coming into the fetus? Yes, I do. What was it like? And I'll describe a little bit, like putting on a new suit or something. And I'll describe that the brain is good or bad, or I'm going to have a difficulty with. I had one client say, oh, this one's going to be really difficult. Why? It's going to have a very strong nervous system or geared to high sport and all the rest of it. But if I don't catch it in, this body's going to be hard for me. And so, various things, just like a car that you might have bought, and you realize, oh, it's not the right car after all. Can you get out? I've asked people, if it's a wrong fit, can you step out? Yes, I can. Have you ever done that? Once, but it's pretty traumatic for the mother, and so a lot of things are in there. But you always have freedom of choice. And then we can ask them, can you go back to just before you came into the fetus for the first time? Yes, okay. So when you're there, raise the finger. Yeah, the finger goes up. All right. So now you've never been Les before. You're looking at the body that's going to be known as Les. So what mission guidelines can you remember? Because your guides will often say, don't forget when you're down there, but of course we do forget. It's the veil of forgetfulness. So now that if the veil hasn't dropped yet, what do you know about your mission that you wanted to achieve? And so that's that can be transformative. That alone can be the question that a lot of people come for these types of sessions. But after that, after we've done that, we go back to the previous past life, which we would have already done. So they've seen another lifetime. At the end of the lifetime, we do that review, and then I count them out. But in a life between life, I say, let's go to the light. And then they go through the crossing over stage where you actually leave the body and go up into the light. And then you do the reorientation that I said about being met, whether you need a healing or a review. And then, of course, the wonderful experience of going home. And that's the point that everybody looks forward to, just because there's perfect love. Nobody has a bad home. Nobody says, no, I don't want to go back there. Everybody comes from such love and experience.
Yeah. And then, you mentioned a couple of times, and I know you wanted to share a little bit about this tonight, and maybe before we do the meditation might be a good place. You talked about the super consciousness, and you said that's something that's happening significantly with your clients at the moment. Do you want to just share a tiny bit about that? And I know you sent me something today, which was a transcript about someone called Sam. I'm going to put that into the chat.
Look, if you're interested in what we're talking about, I'd suggest you look at this as a transcript of a session I did a few years ago of an older soul that died violently as an Indian, I think. And he left his wife behind, and as you can see, he goes through various stages, and through increased encouragement and also a little bit of niggling from the guys, asking more. He goes from a normal past life death of an average soul to all of a sudden I start to see that he's awakening to the bigger picture very, very quickly. This is what I call super consciousness, when there's no longer any sense of normal regret or identification with that life at the normal emotional level, but rather what were the benefits, the pros and cons of that lifetime. And it's really very much of a out of the fish tank type of experience. And the super consciousness means that people are turning on their eternal mind, and starting to become aware of, I'm eternal. And that people are saying that under hypnosis much more commonly now. That when they're in, even if they're still on the astral, they say, what are you learning? And they say, have you done this before? Have you died before? Oh, yes, many times. Or I think, or talk to your guide. And what are you learning right now? It's this love. I know this love. It's so good to be out of the body again. And I know this love. And what are you learning from this? This is who I really am. And more people are saying, I recognize that this is who I am, not Nino. Nino was a vessel. And I like Nino. I didn't like Nino, but he was just a tool, like a car. And I'll get another one, right? And in that state, my clients, not just mine, but people who are doing this, can ask profound questions. With really older souls, I'm getting information pan-galactic. Dimensions, planets, portals, how the Merkaba works, how extraordinary levels of knowledge, how planets are created. You know, again, take with a bar of soap, a pinch of soap. But when you hear 3 or 4 people tell you how a healing unk is made and how it's enforced, and 3 or 4 different people that don't know each other, have no interest in these types of things, but have you, yes, I know what sort of metals are used. They always told me the 3 same metals and exactly the same numbers. So, and then that's just stuff of Earth. But once you go above that into super consciousness, there is a phenomenon where you say, have you come from somewhere else? Or why is your reason for being in the Earth? They don't and ah. That's the difference. When a person has asked a profound question, like I do, you know, how do you answer that question? But when you've got a person in a soul in super consciousness, they either know or they don't know. There's no ego. You can really see that they'll say, on that lifetime, I didn't do too well about this, that, and the other, but I did that really well. They don't shy away from or grandize themselves. What is the honest truth is the way they say it. There's no embarrassment or trying to big note themselves. And that super consciousness, they equate to the fact that I know that I know. In this state, I know that I know. Do you know everything? No, of course not. But also, when I ask them a question and say, I don't know, well, can you just take a deep breath, go into the all-knowing mind and see if you get that answer? And sometimes say, yeah, I actually got that answer. I'm okay to know this, and they'll give me the answer. Or the others, no, I'm not quite at that level yet. But it's not because of one-upsmanship. It's just I'm not quite at that level of frequency yet. So super consciousness is about being aware that I'm a soul in a human body, an eternal soul, and that awakens courageousness and the complete lack of fear of dying, and many other graces too.
I feel, Nino, what we'll do is, I know you've got a short meditation, maybe about 5 minutes, you want to go through this process. Let's go through, and if people want to stay, I know we're coming almost to time, but if you want to stay, because I think it's going to be valuable, I'm going to let you, Nino, just take that little session for the 5 minutes. And then once we've done that, we'll then open up to everyone for any final questions for the night. Okay?
Thank you, Les.
So,
And thank you, Ola. Okay, so the meditation I'm going to give you was given to me by my guides a little while ago. It's another one of these step up to another level points that I've mentioned before, that we're starting to get a lot more information coming through faster and faster under our hypnotized clients in superconscious state, and some remarkable knowledge is coming into us. Normally when we do a meditation, of course, I'm a deep meditator. We either use mantra, or we use breath, or we use visualizations and various other things. But eventually, the deeper meditators know that eventually you've got to get to the point where you don't use any tools, because by using those tools, you're using a lower mind. You need to get to a point of, there's a great tools, we need those tools, but eventually you have to get to a purity of at one-ment in the center of your being, where you no longer are anything other than universal consciousness. As soon as you start to explain that, you're already away from that universal consciousness. You can't use words to define the ineffable. But I got this meditation given to me the other day as another stepping stone to those that recognize that there's a change of frequency of consciousness happening. And I'm going to share that with you. I hope it means something to you. You know, so those that do meditate, I'd like you to imagine that you don't have to be in this position, but if you close your eyes and imagine yourself going into a standard lotus position. You don't have to be, you can be sitting down, but lotus, of course, is that typical, you know you're meditating when somebody's in lotus. And if you close your eyes and take 2 or 3 deep breaths and follow my voice, and allow that with every time you exhale, you're going to, there's some strong presence coming on this. I don't know if you felt that, but there's definitely some guides who are coming in to help us with this. So just put in your own guides now. And just feel that with every breath, you're letting go of any anxiety or concerns at your human level. And as you breathe in, we call in our guides and ask them to come close to us now, please, and allow us to feel your presence and your encouragement, your unconditional love. And just feel that right through your kundalini, there's a beautiful, clear, uncorrupted purity. Doesn't matter what other corruptions you might have in your body, but in the purity, absolute center of your spine, it goes up to the pineal, up to the pituitary, and through the third eye, up to universal consciousness, and through your feet into the ground. We are one. So as you get into that state, go deeper and deeper into the stillness, because you can't think your way through this. You have to know that you know. And that involves being completely and absolutely still. So go deeper now into that stillness. And imagine yourself now in lotus. You're beautiful and strong. You've got an awareness of life force all around you. You can feel your own electromagnetic field, that you are a being of light consciousness, and you're beautiful, ineffable, and can never perish. So you have no fear whatsoever. You have no needs. Just own that for a moment and say, I have no needs out aloud. I have no needs. I am beautiful. And then you can say to you, imagine you're speaking to your own body, I love you. And then you say, name, Janet or Nino, I love you, Nino. I want you to really love your human body and say it out loud, I love you. And I'm at peace, I'm at peace, I'm at peace. So go deeper into that stillness of peace. Now imagine you're now meditating and your eyes are closed, but you're feeling connected. Presence at one. And as you begin to open your eyes, just a fraction, just like the Buddha, just cracks the eyes open a little bit, just to say, what? You're bothering me about. You see a Buddha-like essence, a shadow of a Buddha-like essence, much larger than you. And that Buddha-like essence is a teacher, a master soul, a teacher soul. He's in lotus or she's in lotus too. And she's in your direction, just like a guru with his students. We're the smaller ones, he is the greater one, but we're in sync. There's no competition here. You know that you're the student, and that's the teacher, but we're at one in that. He's accepted me as his student, and I've accepted him as my rishi, my perfect example of what full enlightenment means. It could be Christ consciousness, Buddha consciousness, whatever you want. And you get into that meld, feel that meld between the love, the complete unconditional love between you in lotus and this greater being in lotus, facing each other, each other's aura, without question and in silence. I'm going to leave you in that silence just for 30 seconds. Bond with this beautiful being, your teacher. You may feel pressure, especially around the neck, shoulders, face. That's high frequency energy coming. Bond with it, accept it, love it, be completely at one. Just breathe out any resistance, breathe it away. You're only blocking yourself. Let it go, be at one. Now we're meditating in symbiosis with our master teacher. It used to be that you had to go to India or a place like that to find a guru to learn to meditate at these levels. But those times are changing as more and more of us are recognizing actual time and space don't really exist. This really is a construct. The movie The Matrix has got a lot of truth to it. So in this bonded state right now, time and space is completely unimportant. Just like my clients tell me when they're in a super conscious state, I am eternity, I know it. So now you're in eternity, you as his student, yet strong and powerful and self-loving, in the presence of somebody that's even a greater example of perfection and self-loving and compassion, gratitude. And so uplifting, so purifying, lifting corruption, lifting doubts, removing doubts and replacing it with, yeah, this is what I need. This is where I come from, and when I leave this body, where I'm going back to. But for now, I am the student. This is my teacher. And imagine now that behind the silhouette of our teacher appears the golden white light of the source. Powerful, magnificent, ineffable, waves and waves of love, energy coming to you. You're in lotus, you feel this. It's behind your master. So behind the master, you see the silhouette. In front of the master, you see the silhouette of the master, and then the light. So the light is coming through the master, all around the master, and to you. We're all in the same light. And a simple observation is, I am the student, but I also know I am the teacher. And as we both come from the same source, there's nothing else that is created that doesn't come from source. I am a creation. My master is a creation of that same source. So truly, we're one, just in different states. But that's true sisterhood and brotherhood. But beyond sister and brotherhood, there is just one. So I am the student. I am the teacher. I am source. That's the triangle, the 3 in 1. Know that all those 3 states are yours and are available from around about now. There's a phenomenon happening in many of our studies right now. A lot of my colleagues are coming up with all sorts of stuff very similar to this, that it supersedes and overcomes any doubt if one really works with this. So if you would like it, I would suggest you say out aloud with me 3 times. I am the student. I am the master. And I am the source. I am a student. That is my master. But I am that master. Deep inside of me, I am that master. And deep inside of both of us, I am the source. And so for the 3rd time, in magic, everything needs to be done 3 times. Say it with confidence. I am that student. I am that teacher. And glory be, I am that source. I'm at peace. I'm at peace. I am peace. So just feel that energy for 30 seconds in silence. I suggest you drink it into the cells of your body. Remember, your body is made up of trillions of living cells. This energy can really heal. As an addendum, I suggest that you announce to your brain, from the higher consciousness, that I love you, my body, and I want you to have more light from today forward. Therefore, eat finer foods, less food, meditate, laugh, walk, share laughter, share forgiveness and gratitude. Share the joy of life, because we're all one. And that's the end of my little meditation. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that lovely little process and meditation, Nino. It was beautiful. And thank you also to your guides. I felt them very strongly in around you, holding this space for us tonight to just feel that and to really connect with that student, master, and also the one. So a beautiful little process for us to kind of almost come to the end of tonight with. So thank you for sharing. And now might be just a good time while we get everybody back. I'm just going to remove the spotlighting and we'll just open up to everybody's there for any last questions. And we've probably got room for about 2 or 3 questions, just small ones. So welcome back after the meditation. And I know that Nino shared a lot tonight, and I really want to just acknowledge him for that, because it's been beautiful to hear this wealth of wisdom and understanding of the soul and some of the journeys that clients he's worked with have been through. Because I think it's a lesson and a reminder to all of us on the soul level that we are connected, we're one, we're here for a purpose, and we're here in this community and on this earth at this time. But at this point, does anybody have any kind of things that have been in the background for you? Maybe a small question? If you do, you can either raise your hand or you can use the raise hand option under reactions. So I've got Liz and Heather at the moment on the screen. So Heather, I'll come to you first. I'll just ask you to unmute and then we'll come to Liz. Hi, Heather.
Hello. My question is about baby souls, and I've always wondered how new souls form.
Okay. You're like Ella, you asked the big questions.
Yeah, can't help it.
Disguise
expect the small
behind
answers,
few
by the way.
words.
Yeah.
It's like, can you explain how to not die when hit by a Mack truck?
Well, Nino, in this one, you can give us the consolidated version.
I know. But okay. Look, I suppose I'm really going to have to say, read the book.
Yeah, okay.
Read that book.
Yeah.
Because there's so much to it that in the 2 or 3 minutes, souls are created by the source.
Yeah.
And when they're created, they're just little balls of light, as explained. But again, they're in such dimensions that we're always reducing it down to human conceptions,
Yes, yeah,
things that aren't human at all.
exactly.
Right? We're trying to anthropomorphize birthing of a soul in dimensions that we don't even aware that exist.
Yeah,
but it is obviously a beautiful thing. And one thing that you do get is that each soul is created with as its essence is love.
yeah,
And the matrons that look at this, the guides or the intelligences that look after these first formed souls are clearly exuding wisdom and love in the most perfect way. They've never incarnated, they've never needed to incarnate. Their role is just to usher these new souls into welcome to birth, or something like that. Again, I'm using human terms.
yeah.
It's ineffable, but it's a big subject. I'd suggest you read. Incidentally, even though the answers to that question are more in the second book, which is Destiny of Souls,
Yep.
I would strongly suggest you read Journey of Souls first.
Okay.
Because they're sequential.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I can't give you much.
Thank you. No,
Thank you for that question, Heather.
Thank you.
A lovely question for the work that you do with kids and kindergartens and teachers.
Okay.
So that's
I did see the love in your eyes there, so that explains it.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, you've got lovely eyes. I don't know if anyone else can see it, but even behind those glasses, there's a gleaming soul. So thank you for your work, because there's nothing more precious than giving our newborns a welcome.
Nino, thank you so much. This is absolutely amazing information. I want to ask, something is bothering me. A lot of my friends, especially girls, women, even relatives, are coming across narcissistic personalities from men. What is it all about? The narcissism.
It's not just that. Sorry, was it Lynn?
Liz.
Liz, thank you, Liz. Liz, I can tell you that there's a division happening at the moment. I would direct you to reading The Law of One. That's another big thing. But in brief, frequencies are raising on the earth quite a lot. Those of us who meditate or are tuned to it are actually, like tonight, being brought up to another levels where you stop thinking, you just are. And it's a joyful experience. And the more first we go up there, but then we drop down. But every time we go up these higher, bit by bit, we go up a little bit higher. And that's the way they're changing the consciousness of those that are ready to harvest into next dimensional frequencies, which are much more love. So they can't overwhelm us, because those energies are like trying to put 100 watts into a 50-watt globe. It'll take it for a while, but it'll burn it out. So you need to slowly but surely bring the energy up slowly and slowly. So for those of us who, I see you're wearing an ankh.
Yes.
So,
I went to Egypt with Ella.
Mine and sister of Ella's. And those of us who are aware that we are on the earth, and a lot of us are feeling, as I was told when I was 14, a lot of people will be discombobulated. They'll feel they've missed a boat. I don't know where I'm supposed to be. I don't know where I'm supposed to be, but I don't think it's here. And a lot of star seeds have suicided. A lot of become alcoholics and drug addicts. And now that the frequencies are lifting, the Schumann resonances are going right up, then those of us who are not spending plenty of alone time and moving beyond our fears and our anxieties, and whatever meditation or mantra or walks in nature or prayer or anything like that, but are staying stuck in what's wrong with life, as opposed to starting to focus on what are the joyful things of life, lifting the frequencies. So we have a division. There are those that are choosing to work more from their ego and fear, and they're becoming more and more discombobulated. And it's not just men. I've got plenty of women here too that are going through these sorts of things. And they're feeling more and more, I don't fit, and expressed as anger, frustration, criticism of everybody, everything is broken. everything, our politicians, everyone in the same basket. All the cops are corrupt. All the priests are corrupt. That sort of, those extremisms. And so that's symptomatic of the fact that when I used to teach meditation, I'd have a core group of really old meditators, and we could reach high frequencies. When you'd have a new student come in, they'd be welcome. But if they're not used to meditating, the first couple of sessions, they'd fall asleep because we were bringing the frequencies up to a level they're not used to. And they're conscious and they'd fall asleep. But given a bit of time, they'd get there. There's a frequency change happening. And so a lot of people are finding that is irritating. It's rubbing them the wrong way. They're not pondering it. They're not asking questions. They're not seeking and praying, why am I feeling so angry? Why am I feeling so out of sorts? Why do my only solace now is drugs or alcohol or food or something like that? Where can I find a sense of place and purpose in amongst this chaos? Well, the answer is inside. You have to go inside. And so, you know, what you're experiencing, we're all experiencing. A professional therapist, not all my clients are the ones that I told you about before. I'm getting mostly that. But of course, I still have clients walking in the door. They've got a big chip on their shoulder, or a malady, or a husband or a wife that's an absolute, you know, bastard. But if you help them to realize, well, everyone's fighting their own battles on the earth. Don't look for Christ consciousness in the average human being. We've all got our flaws. Me too. So the best way to move above that is find your own inner Christ or your own Buddha inside, awaken that. And then all of a sudden, what happens outside of you is water off a duck's back. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try to do something about it, but you don't take it personally anymore. You do it like in a mindful, detached way.
Can I ask a second one, darling? Well, 6 years ago, my husband went home, and I go to mediums and spiritual church, and I get messages from him. But I have heard, beautiful messages, by the way, and I have heard some people say, leave them alone. Why are you looking for messages from those who have gone across the other side? They need their own space and own time. What's your view of that? Because I don't know if I agree with that, because it brings so much.
I have to say that the answer to any question where we're not sure is it win-win? If people can come up with rules and moralities and guidelines and all the rest of it, but that one size doesn't fit all. If for somebody else that's a problem, it doesn't have to be your problem. I have to ask, when I've had people come in and says, I'm being visited by this or the other, is it wrong? I say, has any of these visitations harmed you? No. When you're in their space, do you feel love and encouragement? Yes. Then why you want to stop it? It's win-win.
Yeah, thank you.
If it's good, you know, if it's good for you and it's good for the person, that soul trying to contact you, if you read that attached thing, you'll actually see a little bit on that. And again, the destiny of souls goes in this. But all I say is I always apply one simple law. When people are telling you should or shouldn't do something, you just look at it and say, well, is it win-win? Is it good for me and it good for the other person? If the answer is yes, guides always tell me, if it's win-win, don't resist it. There's no harm here. Yeah. Now, if the other person has found harm, that's their circumstance. But if it's not your fault,
that's okay. I'm doing my facilitation job of just managing the space. But look, thank you, Liz. Thank you for those questions. And look, Nino, you know, I think we've come to time tonight. But first of all, I'm going to hand to Ella to thank you too, because it's been really amazing to listen to you. It's just been fascinating to listen to the depth of insight. And like I said, I think everybody who's here and everybody who'll listen to the recording will really take away something special. And, you know, it's really kind of made us feel that, you know, we are here for a journey. We've, you know, enrolled to be in this school on this earth at this time for different reasons and different purposes. But it's really been a joy to listen and to understand a bit more about this fascinating journey. Nino, before I hand to Ella to thank you too, I know, you know, people may want to get in contact with you, or they may want to talk about this or book sessions. Your details are in the document that I put in the chat. They are also on the website on the registration page of the other documents that Nino provided. So we're not going to share his number or his details online because this will end up on YouTube. But if you do want that, either contact Ella or myself or go to the PDF that's in the chat now and you'll find Nino's details there. Ella, do you want to say a quick thank you to Nino?
Thank you, Les.
Definitely. Look, thank you very much, Nina, for sharing your wisdom, your knowing, your knowledge with us. And it's been a privilege to have you as a guest to our Telos Live. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
So
I think we have
everyone,
to thank
if you could just give
everybody else.
Nino
Thank
a
you,
clap,
Ella
give him a
and
round.
Les for facilitating, but everybody else, because we all know that groups create an energy. And I have to tell you, when I was doing that meditation, I was astounded, even though we're all in different places, but the energy was coming through. So I really felt that there's a lot of really interesting souls in this group. So Les, thank you, and Ella for facilitating.
You're most welcome, and it's nice to have you in as a teacher to remind us of who we are. And again, like I said, what I've admired most is just your authenticity in sharing tonight. So I really do appreciate it. So
thank you. You too.
Namaste to you.
You too.